after I finished film school, which was around 2002, I moved to LA because in my mind, I thought that was going to be the hot spot to get into visual effects. And when I got here, I was wrong. A lot of the industry had kind of packed up and left. And many of the studios kind of moved to Vancouver, where I just came from. So I kind of found myself just doing all kinds of stuff to hustle for a few years. You know, I was making websites for people. I worked at a park making brochures for the concerts at the park. And I ended up working at a club for a promoter. And we were moving from one club to another club that had hired him. And I was the designer that he pulled along with. And I was making flyers for a lot of the club events there. The guy I worked for ended up leaving, but then the rest of the club sort of liked me and then decided, hey, why don't you just work here for us? At that time, the club was called Qtopia, and the event manager at this club was Pasquale Rotella from Insomniac, who, founded EDC and, Bass Rush and all these mega brands that, we're definitely part of. But back then he was working the club and he was kind of rebuilding his Insomniac brand after it had kind of gone through this big, huge thing in the 90s and then kind of took a dip. So he was sort of ramping back up that whole thing. And so the club that we were at was an 18 and up club. They sold Gatorade and it was just a rave club. But they won a lottery to reopen with a liquor license. So they closed everything down and got a whole new video system, lighting system in that club. And me being the graphic designer at the club, I kind of was poking around with the video gear and was like, who's using this stuff? And everyone's like, no one knows how this thing works. So I ended up learning how to VJ because I worked at the club. And this was probably about 2005. Started making some of my own VJ clips. All the events that were happening there. We'd had a Bass Rush Wednesday night. It was a big drum and bass night. On the weekends, they were doing like big house and techno clubby, kind of like Paul Van Dyke, Paulo Control kind of nights. Sunday nights was the deep house music night. And, there was all kinds of events that were booked at that club around that time too. And so I just kind of became the VJ at the club and did it until I kind of found my place in motion graphics and, left the club to kind of do, a bit more commercial work. Worked at a company called Three Ring Circus doing motion design, and then Trailer Park doing like movie titles and movie trailer graphics, TV promo graphics, that kind of stuff. So I kind of got out of the club VJ world for a little bit. When I was VJing at that time, it was projection only, and no one really cared what you did with the projectors as long as someone was using them. They were happy they were being used. So kind of just did whatever, find footage, wasn't really focusing too much on creating a ton of content. Play DVDs of weird stuff and mixing it in with other things. And it was all analog video, but it was kind of where I learned and got good at it and kind of brought, some of my DJ skills to, mixing of video content and kind of trying to mix things on beat. But yeah, it was kind of like, a few years where I was, VJing a lot. EDC, Electric Daisy Carnival, was kind of, still in LA at that time. And I'd VJ some of the stages there. Some of the big, massive bass music events like the drum and bass and, house music parties Insomniac was doing some of those festivals as well. But yeah, it was still kind of just like something I did for fun. It was like a hobby.
Nice. That's awesome. Working at the club with, Pasquale. Everyone should know that name if you're interested in this stuff. Yeah, that turned into learning to VJ because you were the guy around that was a designer, so of course you could figure out VJing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of like no one else knew how it works, you know.
Designer and DJ, VJ.
Yeah, exactly.
Hell yeah. If you like this clip, check out the rest of the clips and the full-length interviews. Links in the description.